Peace up, A-Town down.
What does that even mean?
It's from Yeah. Are you kidding me? Usher's Yeah?
I have-
Do.
What he said was silly.
That was very silly.
Hello and welcome to 5 on the 5, where 5 guys talk about a game under $5. This week we are talking about Rayman 2. Starting off, we have the Robos on Ice. They named him twice. Double Robo, aka Sean, here as your host of the show, overriding Jordan's intro because it was dumb. Next we have
Don't give me that.
Next we have the lyrical wordsmith and genius voice of no generation, the Headhunter, aka Skylar.
Wait, what? What?
So Skylar just woke
Yeah,
up, so be ready
I don't
for
even
that.
have anything clever to say because that intro is so bad. Like, what? Okay, whatever. It's cool. It's cool. Let's do this.
We also have with us the plague-bearing pile of packaged piranhas in the form of a pretentious preteen Danger Whisk, a.k.a. Josh.
Alliteration aside, I'm in my 20s. Don't make me creepy.
Or so he claims. Or so he claims.
Everybody in their 20s is creepy. It's just
At
a
least-
fact of life.
At least that's what he told the cops. We also have the guiding light to 5 on the 5, and by far the most intelligent and well-rounded person on the show, and also a
Wait,
total
what?
dick, Night Train, a.k.a. Jordan.
I want to thank you all for that intro. I thought it was very accurate. Whoever
Do you,
wrote that.
do you want to
deserves
thank the
credit.
Academy and God? And
Yeah, I want to thank
your
the
mom.
Academy. I want to thank the director. I also want to send a shout out to my girlfriend because she is the guiding light of my.
I quit. I'm quitting. I'm gonna leave the call right now.
I'd say it's really nice of you to mention Skylar in it, but I'm
Yeah, I know our relationship really improves your life, but can we keep it to the private sector?
God, I hate you all.
Also, next week, I'm writing your intro.
Yes.
Up next, we have the broactive, brofessional, profusely being the bro to the show, Subtotal Broom, a.k.a. Evan.
Hey, what's up, guys? What's up, my bros?
You need, but he's the bro you deserve.
I thought that was
That,
pretty
that
good,
intro
Evan.
is way better than the last one.
I thought that was pretty good.
You didn't like Broseph
you think all
Stalin? I
your
like
intros are
Broseph
good.
Stalin.
Wait,
That was
no,
a good
I meant that one was better.
Oh, yeah.
I meant
Okay.
these intros are the worst yet. Was what I meant.
You know what? I think we all need a protein shake.
Oh man.
Ah, there
I
we
need
go.
anything in my stomach.
Oh,
All right,
man.
Sean, why don't you get this started?
Okay, so let's get started just with some quick story really quick. Like I said, this week we're playing Rayman 2. We played the PC version, but it also was out on, what are the other systems, Jordan? N64,
It was
PS2.
ultimately,
yeah.
it was ultimately ported on 9 different platforms.
Yeah, so
N64,
lots of different
PC,
places.
Dreamcast, PlayStation, PS2, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it also showed up on Game Boy Advance, which must have been a completely separate game, which is like the same story, I guess. But so essentially, you play as Rayman. The game centers around the invasion of the Glade of Dreams by robot pirates from outer space, which Jordan has a theory about that. Rayman has to collect 1,000 pieces of the world's core, which are called lums. And it's not actually 1,000, it's 999, and when that number switched from 1,000 to 999, my OCD was really ticked off the rest of the game.
Except there is a secret 1,000th lum. You can actually get all 1,000.
Oh, really? That's pretty awesome. Do you have to
Try
get it
hard
out of his
job.
stomach?
Yep.
Do you have to pull it out of his stomach like Alien?
Yeah, right. That's what I was gonna say.
Well, dude, of course. Why do you think it's lums, the antacid lums?
And
That's
nobody
awesome.
who's from America, only people from America are actually going to get that reference. And
It's okay. We're all from America, so we got the
That's because in
reference.
America we're fat and we have indigestion because we eat too much.
Yes,
Right?
I love
Yeah.
indigestion.
Anyway,
you got that.
so less about America. One-star reviews from Americans. So you also have to collect 4 masks, and the goal is to summon Pelocus, who's the spirit of the world, and he's going to repair it. The pirates
It
are
has
led by...
creepily long arms and
Yes,
extremely thin elbows.
Thank you, Skylar, for that commentary.
Both of those things are true.
Yes.
The pirates are led by Admiral Razorbeard, who essentially... Wait, what? What do I have written there? Guys the world? What?
He essentially takes over everything and then drains Rayman of its
Doesn't
powers.
make any sense.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, guts. That's what I meant to say. He guts the world.
God.
So the pirates are led by
let's talk
Admiral.
about the real hero of the game, though, Globox.
Yeah.
So wait, we can get the Globox later. The pirates are led by Admiral Razorbeard, who guts the world. Globox restores Rayman's ball throwing ability, and he escapes the ship. He then spends the rest of the game
That
searching
sounds much
for.
funnier when you put it that way.
It really did.
He spends the rest of the game searching for the masks or rescuing people who've been captured. Eventually, you get all 4 masks. You wake up Polocus, who easily beats the pirates on the ground, but womp womp, he has no power in the air. So Rayman has to go up and fight Razorbeard on his own, who's piloting a giant robot named Glogwoloth, or whatever. He defeats Razorbeard. Razorbeard flies off on an escape pod to set up for Rayman 3, essentially. Rayman is assumed dead, because only his shoe is found, but he appears at his own funeral limping, which is also a video game trope. Okay.
Yeah. If you haven't played the game, the robot pirates, are all in this giant giant floating pirate ship in the sky, and that's why the Polocus guy can't fight them in the air. And then the giant pirate ship explodes when Rayman saves it, and that's why he's presumed dead.
Pirates in the sky with fairies.
Jesus Christ!
Oh, what?
We're gonna have to pay royalties for that kind of thing. That was just close enough.
Yeah, it was.
No, that's
short enough,
parody.
I don't
It's
think-
parody. It's fine.
We're actually starting our own Rayman-based cover band. You
Oh,
should
God,
hear
no.
us.
I agree.
Yeah, exactly.
The Fighting Lums.
No,
That was pretty good.
we're called I Died on Every Platform Jump and went back to the beginning of the lava system.
One shy of
That's only
1,000.
you, Sean.
One shy of 1,000. I like that.
Yeah, that's actually a really cool name for a band anyway. Jordan, when your band breaks up
Right?
and you start a new band, you should call it that. Okay, so
I like
Jordan...
how that sentence was prefaced with a when, because it's absolutely going to happen.
Exactly. Okay, so before we do the history, let's take a walk down to my new favorite bumper.
From Colorado's news leader,
This is the Situation Room with Skylar. God help us all.
Okay, Skylar, why don't you hit us with your situation room?
Hello, and welcome to the Situation Room. This is Skylar. As you may know, we're traveling back to a year known as 1999. And in this year, democracy was restored to Indonesia. The Indonesians were very sad without democracy. They felt better afterwards. In addition, we have Lance Armstrong winning his first Tour de France. We discussed him previously. All his things were redacted, so that's not actually news. Mattel's
It's X
Barbie doll.
news.
It's X news. Indeed. The Barbie doll celebrated its 40th birthday. Also very exciting. In more exciting news, though, Napster was introduced. Who used Napster? Seriously.
I remember Napster.
Everyone.
I used Kazaa a lot. I didn't use Napster a lot. I think the statute of
I think it was
limitations are up on that.
my friend. The double
Yeah.
A was at the end.
Okay, fair enough.
Everybody uses LimeWire. Let's just go with that.
Yeah,
And I
I
guess
use
the most
LimeWire a lot,
important
too.
news. Yeah, that's true. Is at the end of 1999, in fact, New Year's 2000, the Y2K problem was in
Never
existence.
happened. Yeah.
Yep.
Which-
That was the year of thinking that your clocks were going to screw you over because they couldn't count up one number.
Which is pretty awesome that we're playing Rayman now, considering that we have another apocalypse looming. That there's an entire
Right, yeah,
show on
right.
the History Channel about preparing for. So,
Oh my
History
seriously?
Channel knocking. Yes, the History Channel has a whole series about people that are preparing for the December apocalypse. No joke.
That's so silly.
It sounds like they really limited themselves in seasons.
Yeah. Well, but the good news is when the aliens come, they can do a crossover with Ancient Aliens. So that'll be
Still, though, I was
perfect.
gonna say, that sounds like the Jordan Coulter of shows. You know, one shot and then it's done.
Hey, whoa now.
Damn, son.
Alright.
So I'm going to introduce you guys to something, though, since we're talking about apocalypses, which is a real apocalypse in the year 2038, when integers on computers become too large. The year integers become larger than computers can handle, and then computers won't actually be able to write the time, and then there will actually be problems.
Sweet.
Just so you know.
I'm excited for it.
2038.
We have
Well,
plenty of
I
time
got
to
a question.
rewrite our
So-
computers between now and then, so that's great. Go, Josh.
Yep.
So so same year, democracy comes to Indonesia, right?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that's Rayman's fault. I'm just
No,
gonna
it is. It is.
Like-
It
I'm just-
says that
I-
in the article.
I'm just saying you've never seen Indonesia and Rayman in the same room together. I don't know.
Right. Have you ever seen the Indonesian president in Rayman? No.
Nope.
Okay, well, on that
And
note,
plus,
I'm going to go
plus
with
the
some of
Indonesian
history.
president has a bad habit of playing basketball with his chest. So
I was going to say they both speak languages that I don't understand, but we can go with that too.
Wait, are you calling the thing Rayman speaks a language?
Yeah, it's called Raymanese, actually. And what a perfect segue, Skylar.
What?
to the history before Josh talks
What
about
was
the
that a
language.
segue to?
Jordan, why don't you hit us with the history on Rayman 2?
Okay, I will hit you with the history. So it was originally designed as a 2D scroller platformer, much like Rayman 1. But was eventually kind of redesigned as a 3D platformer. As we mentioned earlier, it was ported on 9 different platforms, making it the most ported of the Rayman series. It was on N64, PC, Dreamcast, PlayStation, PS2, as well as Game Boy Color and DS. And a lot of the versions had slight variations. They were named to different things, all that kind of stuff. But they're all kind of under the title, under the kind of guise of Rayman 2. It was IGN's Dreamcast Game of the Year in 2000. Most of the reviews that I saw gave it in the area of like 9 out of 10s, 92 out of 100s and stuff like that. It was widely praised for the difficulty and the atmosphere. And a lot of people particularly liked the kind of world and the way it was integrated, which is ironic because that was one of the things I liked the least. So there's a little bit of the history, and we'll hit some trivia there at the end.
I will say,
so
and
if you-
no, I was just going to say, I do agree with the atmosphere piece of it. Like, I think people are going
I
to
was
see in
just
this
gonna-
show that I didn't like Rayman 2 very much. But one thing I did really like the music and like the sound, other than the voices, I thought worked really well. Anyway,
I was
Skylar,
just gonna
go
say,
on.
if you change the name of your game, it becomes a new game.
What?
A
No,
new
if it has
game.
all the same mechanics. If you call Tetris Mass Effect 3, it's still Tetris. Like,
I don't know.
Bullshit.
I think
And
would
also,
say
I want
that-
to play that version of Tetris.
I want to play that version of Mass Effect 3. It sounds better.
You put all the Reapers in a
Oh.
line and they disappear.
Yeah, it's just like a Bejeweled clone where you match up the Reapers.
I matched up 3 Miranda's sex scene.
Exactly.
All right, well, this is rapidly deteriorating.
This is a much better. Josh, let's talk after the show. We're gonna make this a real game. Okay.
Absolutely.
Anyway, okay. So let's start out before we do top moments. Let's talk about kind of our history. So let's talk about kind of people's history with platformers. Let's start off with Evan. Kind of what's your history with platformers?
Well, I guess the best thing is I grew up playing platformers.
Oh, you.
I have been playing platformers since the first Ratchet and Clank, and I've played almost every single one since the first one. Me and Jordan had a PlayStation that we probably used way too much to play those games. They are a blast. I love them. I love the style. I love everything about them. They're probably one of my favorite types of games.
Skylar, what's your history with platformers?
So yeah, I'm pretty similar. I've played platformers for a really long time, starting with like Super Mario 64 and stuff on the N64, Kirby games on the Game Boy, stuff like that. Recently, I've played like Super Meat Boy, and I've been into really difficult platformers. Like I Want to Be the Guy, Super Meat Boy. It's amazing. And like games like that. I hadn't played any Rayman games though, approaching this one, so that was interesting. It's definitely got different feels than other platformers, but we'll talk about that later. Yeah, I liked it though.
So
I like platformers in general.
has anyone played Rayman 1?
No,
Josh, have you? I think Josh would be
Rayman
the one I
1
would
now.
expect. Okay.
interesting.
No. Okay. All right. Josh, hit us with your history.
I'm actually not that big a platformer guy. I never really played Super Mario 64 until probably high school. But the one exception to this, I've also never played the Ratchet and Clank games. I did play the Jack and Daxter games though. Those games were great.
I mean, the only reason
But,
I've seen them is because Jordan like kidnapped me at his house and forced me to watch.
You live down the street. Don't give me that shit.
But yeah, I never really played Ratchet and Clank or anything like that though. However, I will be the hipster on this one. I actually owned this game when it first came out back in '99.
Did you play it when it first came out, or just
I
owned
did
it?
it. This actually
Whoa.
playing it for the show makes the second or third time I've actually beaten this game.
Nice.
And that's how I know about the 1,000th Lum, by the way. But yes,
Whoa.
no,
How do
I
you-
actually played this to completion.
As a
Back-
as a side note, Josh, how how do you get the 1,000th lum? For those of us wondering that we'll
Yeah,
never get it.
basically you have to collect all 999, and then you go to the garbage dump with all the dead robot pirates, and the 1,000th lum is actually there.
Oh, that makes sense.
Kind of clever, kind of lame.
I would have
It
thrown it
doesn't
away.
give you anything, so it's really only just to solve your OCD.
Fair enough.
Wow, I'm
Because
proud they put that in the game.
someone
It's like they
on
put
Ubisoft is as OCD as you are.
it's like they put that in the game just for me.
It's true.
Yeah, my video game OCD is pretty bad about that kind of stuff. Like it really bothers
Apparently,
me.
the 1,000th lum was in different places in different versions of the game. Just for the record.
That's brutal.
Well, then, for you people who aren't on PC, don't listen to that.
Ignore what he just said.
Yeah, man.
Okay, all right, Jordan, what's your history with platformers?
So I'm a pretty big platform player. I didn't play a lot of the kind of like super strict platformers like the Marios and stuff like that. But I did play a lot of like the Ratchet and Clanks with the platforming, the Jack and Daxters. Crash Bandicoot was like my shit when I was a kid.
Crash Bandicoot forever.
Oh my god, I love those games so much. So yeah, Evan and I, that's kind of really what we got our start on when we were kids with our original PlayStation and then our PS2, where a lot of those kind of combination platformer, action-y kind of games. Yeah. So I've always been a big platformers fan. Like I still play Sonic games. I played some of the new, like the Sonic 4 and stuff like that, Sonic Generations and stuff like that. So I'm a pretty big platformer player.
I was actually pretty pleasantly surprised with Sonic Generations, by the way, as a side
Sonic
note.
Generations was so good.
I thought that was actually a pretty good game. The only thing that game was missing that I love about Sonic games was Chow's, because Sonic Adventure 2 Chow's was the best thing ever.
Sonic Adventure 2 is like one of the best games I've ever played, though, so
Yeah.
you can't compare anything
It's
to
true.
that.
Yeah, it's true. But yeah, Sonic Generations was pretty good. Okay, so I guess my history with platformers, the first game I ever played was a platformer, just like I think most people. I played Mario on the Game Boy when my cousin
Yeah.
passed
Nice.
that down to me. So the first video game I ever played was Mario on Game Boy, like the old fat Game Boy with a green screen. It was the best thing ever.
Yes.
Awesome.
I had one
And
of those.
I ate many batteries through that on road trips. But outside of that, I think really I ended up going down a very different path with gaming, because the second game I ever got was Pokemon Blue. And I really kind of got into RPGs, strategy games. Then after that, I started playing a lot of games on computer, so like a lot of, like puzzle games like Math Blaster and that kind of stuff, but also like strategy games.
Math Blaster is game of the fucking decade.
Right,
Said John,
right.
whatever.
Also,
Math
Freddy the
Blaster is
Fish.
pretty awesome.
Freddy the Fish, anyone?
Freddy the Fish is good.
Classic.
I really
Hot
liked
Pots the
Zoom
Car.
Beanies. That was a fun game.
Oh my god, Zubini! I take it back. I'm giving Zubinis my best game.
Yeah.
Zoom Beanies was an awesome game. Anyway, so I kind of went down that path, but I also played like Tiberian Sun and Red Alert and like strategy games. So I did not play a lot of platformers. Like I'm trying to think of notable platforms in my history are like Sonic Adventure 1 and 2.
Never
I had a
Super
lot
Mario?
of
64.
No, I am one of the people who's never played through Mario 64. I played it at other friends' houses, so like I know what it is, and I played a few levels, but I never played through that game. And I never really put a finger
so
on
you're in the
why.
same boat as me there.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting because I have never really been drawn to platforming mechanics. Like there have been certain standout ones that I've liked. So, like Sonic 1 and 2, like I said, Sonic Adventure, and like Super Mario Sunshine was really fun for me.
That's a cool game.
There are some games that I've liked as platformers, but they've been the exception more than the rule. Like I had Spyro, I never really got past the first past the third
Spyro,
level.
I played that too. Thanks for reminding me.
I had Crash Bandicoot, I never got past the second or third level. Like something about that mechanic does not draw me in. So platformers to me have kind
Fair
of
enough.
been an open space in my history. I haven't played any of the recent ones, Jak and Daxter, or any of the other stuff that's come up after
Mario
that.
Galaxy.
Yeah, that's because I didn't have a Wii, but I probably would have
Mario
played Mario
Galaxy's
Galaxy
amazing.
because it was like a bigger Sunshine, and I really liked Sunshine, so I probably would have played Mario Galaxy. But so that's kind of my history going into this, and I think that kind of taints my love of Rayman, or hate, therefore,
Same.
of it. But let's start by talking about kind of top moments. So Jordan, you said you wanted to talk about story and world. Do you want to kind of situate us on that?
Yeah. So, like, as I was playing through the game, I was kind of a theme kind of came about in terms of like the story in the world, and this was interesting because like looking at reviews and stuff for the history, this was something that a lot of people praised a lot, and it was actually something that I really didn't like. Like the story seemed kind of strange and with a lot of holes in it. I imagine if I had played the first game, I would have been a little more familiar with the characters and things like that. But it like introduced all these characters, and then you never really ever saw them again, with like the exception of the big giant guy who breaks stuff.
Clark!
And, Clark, Rayman.
Clark.
Yeah, it seemed like a lot of them were like nostalgia
Right.
revamps from the first game, like that girl and stuff. I
Right.
feel like
Lee
were-
the Fae!
Yeah, they
Sorry.
just like threw them in there. It's
Rayman
like,
impressions at parties, at bar mitzvahs.
good.
You can hire me. I'm cheap.
oh god. But
Do you have a clever Jewish bar mitzvah Rayman name?
Ray Manowitz?
Yes, thank you.
Jews everywhere just facepalm. And
Well, I was going to
Okay,
say, we've
the
got,
eighth night
what,
of
4
Hanukkah.
Jews in this podcast, by the
Happy
way?
Hanukkah to everyone.
Yeah.
That's right. We have, what, 4 Jewish commentators here?
Yeah.
On side note, we just lost our entire KKK and Nazi viewership.
God. Oh
So-
my God.
all right. Well, anyway, moral of that story was like they threw these characters at you, and then you never really ever saw them again. And that I kind of let slide because I assumed if I had played the first one, I'd been familiar with them. But like even with the story, like it just didn't. I only had like a vague idea what in the world was ever going on. Like I had no real idea. Like I knew I was collecting the masks to wake up the guy, but it's like why? And then where did like the masks seem to serve no purpose at all? Like occasionally you found them in the temple, and then there was the one where just like the little tiny glow box guy was like, oh, by the way, I found this. I was like, really? And so I was talking to Sean before the show, like when you collected that stuff in something like Zelda, it served a purpose. Like you're like, you have to go to the water temple or whatever to collect this item. And then that item not only furthers the plot, but it's actually useful in some fashion. Like these ones, you collected these masks and then you gave them to the creepy guy with the long arms, and then there was like
And tiny
nothing
elbows.
ever together. And there seemed to be no like logical progression from any of the levels, like in any of the worlds that you went to. So the story to me seemed really disjointed. And then the worst part was at the end. Like at the end, by the way, spoilers alert. I know it's probably been spoilers already, but like at the end, you go and you fight the final boss in the giant robot. I'm like, okay, he's got the giant robot, whatever. And then like you beat the first phase of the giant robot, and then you fall down, and the robot falls in the lava and presumably dead. And then your fairy person comes to you and he's like, so by the way, the Plox guy, he saved the world, killed all the pirates. That was cool. Oh, and also we saved everybody on the giant slave ship with like 40,000 slaves on it. It was like, just by the way, in passing, she mentions that the entire world has been saved, and all you have to do now is defeat the boss. Yeah, it was just like, I didn't feel like I was saving anybody ever. I didn't feel like I did anything. It's just like, oh, by the way, the guy that you unlocked, he killed all the robots. We're all cool. No, and also these 40,000 people that have been trapped on this giant slave ship. Oh, they're saved.
For the record, he was pretty buff. Like that guy. The guy was buff.
For the other weird record is like you break one of the mechanics in the game is you shoot cages to break out people, but they
Right.
only ever contain lums. So yeah, I didn't really feel like I was
Well-
saving the population.
So,
Or
sometimes
they
they contain
contain
people
those
if it's the
weird, like,
end of
council
the
members.
game. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or,
the little
not the
teams
game, it's
that-
the end of the
Boston
level.
Easies.
Yeah.
But it just like
Yeah.
like nothing seemed to have any like connection from one to the other, and a lot of it was just like I was just playing from level to level, and I had no idea why one was relevant or why I should have been here. You know, outside of like the occasional temple where you're supposed to get a mask. You know.
Right. Yeah.
That's
yeah, I mean,
fair.
I kind of had the same problem, but I feel like that's kind of a mixed argument in platforming games in general. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like part of what drives you forward in a platformer is that sense of satisfaction of collection, the puzzle solving type mechanics of like how do I get over to that box,
Right.
and then
The fact
also,
that new mechanics are constantly introduced too is important in platformers.
well,
And
yeah, except
that,
that in
like, you
Rayman 2
constantly-
they
and that-
introduce new mechanics and then never fucking use them again. Like
Yeah,
when
right.
you do
That
the
really
water
bothered me.
skiing and then you spend like 35 minutes trying to get past this 2-minute segment, and then they don't ever use it again, and you're like, great, I just spent 35 minutes getting great
It
at
was-
water
yeah.
skiing.
Well, yeah, in platformers, it's like either like every world has its own like set of mechanics that they'll introduce and then they won't be used later, or they'll be used again in the final world, or the mechanics will like build on each other.
Yeah.
Like, this was definitely an instance of mechanics were like in their own world, and that was it.
Yeah.
It
But-
reminded me
well-
of the. Oh, go ahead, Sean.
I was
Some
going to say
of the
back.
little mini games came back.
Yeah, some of them
Vaguely.
did. I just want to say back to the story point though. I think it's a mixed
we'll
bag
finish on that.
in platformers where I think sometimes people say story is good for platformers, and then sometimes people hate it when a platformer has story. Sonic Adventure 2 is a great example of that, where like it is a very mixed community about people either love the fact that it has a story and that there's a reason you're doing stuff, or people hate it and think the story is cheesy and that Sonic shouldn't say radical, and that like Sonic 2D
well, like-
is way better because he never talks.
Whenever I got to a cutscene, I just wanted to skip it because I just wanted to get back to the game. I didn't care like that much about the story because I'm not playing platformers for like emotional, jarring, glowbox loving story madness. I'm playing for platforming. So
Well, I think what bothered me is that it tried to do both. Like, if you're going to have a platform game with no story, that's fine. I mean, most of the early Marios are predicated on, well, go save somebody or collect
save the
these things.
princess. That's the story.
Yeah, and that's fine. If you just want to kind of throw a big general framework into your game and be like, hey, that's what you got to go do, enjoy the levels, that's fine. The problem is, this seemed to try and give you the story. It was like trying to make the, hey, Rayman, every 5 seconds, every time you died, the fairy lady was like, by the way, you have to save the world. Don't forget. The entire world is relying on you. Come save these people enslaved in the mines and in the cages. But the story was just so bad and so full of holes. Like, I would have preferred if they had just done one or the other. But because it was just a bad story that didn't seem to serve any purpose, it detracted from the game as opposed to just being like a kind of side afterthought.
That's fair enough. I liked how that lady like tried to make you feel better about yourself.
I know,
when you
right?
died. It was
I
really
feel like
funny.
for the first time, I'm the real hipster, and that's unusual because it's usually Jordan or Skylar's job. I liked the story. I thought it was fun. It was whimsical. It's, yo, you've got no arms and legs. Go save the world. And, it was just fun. It didn't have to be too serious. We didn't need, Mass Effect style dialogue trees and everything. I thought the story existed enough to get you interested, and you didn't need more. I
But
thought
you-
it was.
so
I
you
thought it
found-
was fine as is.
You
It's
found
like a
yourself
Tim
interested
Burton
in the
movie.
cutscenes?
It's a little
Interested?
weird. It's a little funny. Things are a little freaky at times. But overall, I thought it was fun. I don't think you need more story. And I
So you
certainly
never
didn't think
wanted
that
to
what you
skip a
had in it was
cutscene?
bad.
Josh,
No.
you never wanted to skip.
I
a
wanted
cutscene?
to skip the little freaking bonus levels because those things
We'll
were
get
just
to that later.
engines of destruction. But
Okay.
I liked the cutscenes. I liked the story. I thought it was whimsical and fun.
It was whimsical and fun, but it didn't make it made so little sense that it started to bother me. Like, there's nothing wrong with something whimsical and goofy and fun. Like, the Ratchet and Clank games have all kinds of dumb, silly humor and all that kind of stuff. But it got to the point where it was detracting from it. Like, at the beginning, I kind of half paid attention to the story, half not. I was like, okay, you just broke out of prison, you got to save the world. Cue your video game trope, bumper or whatever. The problem was they interjected it a lot, enough to the point where they wanted you to pay attention, but the story itself was just bad. Like, it had all these flaws in it, and it was noticeable enough. Like, it got to the point where it was noticeable, and that was the problem. It wasn't the story so much that itself, it was the flaws in the story that became noticeable that therefore detracted from the overall experience.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah, I don't know if there's too much else we can talk about with the story.
Yeah,
Josh,
we
do
can
you
move on to
want
something
to
else. That was just what really bothered me.
do you want to talk about the bonus levels since that came up, Josh?
Yeah, let's talk about the bonus levels.
Those.
So, assuming you collect all lums in an area and break all the cages, you get rewarded, and I use the term loosely, with a bonus level.
Nuclear
And-
launch detected.
Yeah.
And your reward is the most frustrating 15 seconds of your life. I mean, it's like what Jordan's girlfriend has to go through every couple of
Oh!
days. 15 seconds.
You deserve that hardcore
Pure
after your
pain.
intro.
Okay, fair. I did call you a pretentious preteen. Fair. All right, where are you?
So what happens is, it goes, there's a cute little witch, and she's so adorable, and she's got a present for Rayman. And then you play as a baby Glowbox who's racing a fat robot pirate, and you have to mash the left and right keys to increase his
It
speed.
was like a Mario Party game.
Right, to try and outrun this pirate to get to the ferry. But there is no rhyme or reason to this, and I don't care how fast you mash it, you will never beat the pirate.
Well, I did. Once.
I did.
Yeah.
It's
Ouch.
like
It was
it's like that
ridiculously
old
hard.
South Park joke about Heroin Hero, where you chase the dragon but you never catch it. That's how it feels. Like, I'm mashing left and right as fast as I can, and nothing happens. And assuming you do win after, hours of frustrating just mashing left and right to try and get the cadence down, and you do win. Whatever the fairy gives you sucks.
Yeah.
It's never worth it.
Yeah, it fucking drove me.
What does she give you?
Like health. Like,
Yeah.
What?
She
Really?
refills your health. I guess she can give you like small power-ups and stuff like that. Yeah, the first time I got to a bonus level, I did it kind of on accident. I was like, oh, I happened to get everything. I was like, oh, that's cool. And so I like go and it's like you have to race a pirate. I'm like, okay, well this is an odd bonus level, but okay. And then it's like mash back and forth. So the first time I'm like mashing and I'm like 3/4 of the way like of the speed bar and I get destroyed. And I'm like, oh, you gotta be.
As far as maxed, you're not gonna win.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh god. So I wanted to see what it did. I figured, okay, well this is hard. It's got to be useful. And so I like spent about 20 minutes breaking my left and right arrow keys on my keyboard. And I finally win, and it's like the fairy gives you like she gave me health. Like my health was at 3/4 empty, and it became like 1/4 empty. And I was like, are you serious? What? What? And so I was like, all right, well, note to self. Fuck that.
So wait, is it
Never
is it is it race the pirate every time, or is it a different
Yeah.
minigame?
Always race
Yes.
the pirate. No, it's always race the
Oh
pirate.
my god, you're kidding me.
Every bonus level is race the pirate.
That's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
I got 2 bonus levels, and they were both like that. And I was
Well,
like,
so they
yeah,
probably
okay.
made the bonus levels, and then they played like the first one, and they were like, "Okay, this sucks. No one will collect all the looms and play into these. We'll just leave them all the same."
Yeah, it
Relax.
was like bonus level. I thought that was cool the way they put that in the level. Like with the exception of like the loading points where you couldn't go back, like backtrack places. I thought it was cool that they like hid the cages where you could hear them but not necessarily see
That
them.
was cool.
I did
know?
like that. Yeah, I like that a
So
lot.
you're not just like a lot of times when you have to collect secrets in an old game like this, it involves going on the internet and finding somebody who happened to run into it. I like that you like go in a room and you're like, okay, I know there's a cage here somewhere. I just have to kind of find it. And I thought that all of that was good. I thought the way that they encouraged you collecting all the yellow lums was cool. It's just the bonus level was like totally not worth it, even a little remotely, unless you
Those-
happen to get all 50 at once.
Those were
I
actually
thought
the
that
parts of the
cues in
game.
were really.
What, Josh?
The cues in the game were really good. Like there would be lums along a path to show you where you always needed to go,
Yeah.
or
Mhm.
something like that, where I never felt lost while playing it.
Yeah, back to our
Also,
perennial.
like, if you could feel lost, like there's not a whole lot to like explore though.
Yeah, the level
It's
Yeah,
pretty
it
true.
is pretty
Like-
linear. It's like linear with little offshoots.
More linear than like you would expect from at first glance,
Yeah.
Yeah.
for sure.
But-
Yeah, I mean it's kind of back to our perennial discussion about feedback systems. Like I feel like that's the thing that's linked through most of our shows was like I feel like this game had a good feedback system. Like for all the crap I'm giving it about not liking platforming mechanics, the parts that I did like the most were those puzzle solving. Like I can hear a crate, but I don't know where it is, so I'm gonna try and like figure out how to solve that puzzle to get it. That's the more fun part of me, and that's why I like games like Zelda and like stuff that are like they have platforming mechanics in them, but they're not just platformers. Like that. That's kind of what I liked the most about this game was that sort of piece of it. And the feedback system was good, like Josh was saying. Like, here are 3 lums. You're supposed to go this way. Like that sort of piece. Like I didn't ever really feel lost unless I was looking for something off the beaten path.
Yeah.
Then I felt a little like I don't know how to get there. But
Right.
I agree with that.
Speaking of collection, can we talk about that for a second?
Go for
this
it.
collection
Yeah,
mechanic?
mhm.
Because something about this pissed me off, which is I like platform, but I cannot stand games that are like, you just got to this point, you beat all these levels. Too bad that doesn't mean crap if you don't have 346 lums. And
yes,
that
Spyro
pissed me
did
off.
this, and that drove me nuts.
I got to the second mask, and it was like, you need 15 more lums. I was like, okay, that's fine. So I went and found some. But then I was like, when I get to the third mask, there's no way I'm going to have enough. So I'm going to need to go back for so much. And that was when
Really?
I was
I never
like,
got stuck on one.
Really?
Like,
Yeah, I didn't ever.
well, you guys
find
are way
myself
too.
short
I
on
was like,
lums.
well, you know me. I have like the speedrun tendency, so I tended to
Fair
skip
enough.
some lums in
also
favor
known
of
as
trying to
ADD.
be. Yes,
think is
in
what
favor
he's
of
trying
trying
to
to
say.
do like fast, clever things. I skipped occasional lums, and apparently that occasional lum was enough to get me behind enough to be like super
Yeah.
pissed off at the game. And like,
Yeah.
I just don't think any game should force you to collect something that's that plentiful, but not actually plentiful.
I thought they were very plentiful. You're just bad at it.
yes, Skylar.
Okay,
I think
we'll go
I think
with
my bigger
Where-
problem was the
Right,
way,
Zach.
as far as collection would go, the way that they would quarantine certain pieces of the level, that got more frustrating for collection. Where it's like, I just went through this giant, skateboarding down a thing or the water skiing section or whatever, and there were some lums, and I ended up dying a lot anyway because they're terribly designed. So most of the time I would like head bash my way through getting most of the lums that were in there because I had to do it 25 times. But then there were a few where like there were 3 at the end, and I would pick up like one of them and then just be at the wrong angle and miss the other 2 or something, and then it would end, and there was no way for me to end it before that. And so it was like, well, now it's over, and I can't go back and get them without restarting the whole level.
Right, yeah, that's
exactly.
like my problem. That combined with the fact that you need to collect a lot is a problem, I think.
Like they throw occasional spots in the level where it's like loading zones that move you on to a next like phase, but oftentimes you couldn't tell what those were. Like if it, I mean, sometimes they'd be like clearly a tunnel with no other side, and you're like, okay, if I walk in that tunnel, I'm going to another part. But there'd be a lot of times where it'd be like, okay, I noticed there was like 1 or 2, like Sean said, that I missed that I could maybe go back and get whatever. But then occasionally I'd be like, okay, well, I'll just go down. They'd like present you with like a fork in the road or something, and one fork would be like where the little bonus lums are, and the other would be the next phase of the level. The problem is, if you took that next phase of the level part, it would throw you in a loading screen and then to another part of the level where you couldn't go back. So there are quite a few times where it'd be like, okay, well, I don't know which one is which. I'll just go down this one. And I like jump down a pit thinking, okay, I'll land on the bottom. But just kidding, lols. It's the next part of the level. Yeah, loading screen, and you're moving on. So it was like not the end of the world because you could always just do the level over again. But it was kind of annoying.
Well, I don't want a game that forces me to do levels over again without new benefits. Like in Super Mario 64, you have to do levels like 6 times, but every time you're solving a new puzzle. I don't want to have to do a level again just to collect 2 pesky lums.
Right.
Well,
oh, go ahead, Josh.
One of the things I do dislike about the game, and it's not much because I really like the game, is that sometimes they make you go back to levels, not just to collect things, but like the first time you meet Clark, you have to do this whole riding a shell thing.
Yeah.
And then you meet him, and then they send you back to another area, and then you collect an item to help Clark, and then you have to do the whole riding the shell thing.
Wait, which one's Clark? Is he the muscle guy?
He's the muscle guy. The first
what
time you meet him, you need to get him a life potion.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking
too many
of.
robots, apparently. And then, so you go to another area, and then I felt like when I came back, I expected there to be a cutscene of me giving it to him, but no, you have to play through the entire level over to get back to him.
Yeah.
And I just felt like it wasn't necessary.
The Cave of Bad Dreams, the level you go to get the life potion, that was like one of my favorite levels. I thought that
was a really cool level.
That was such a tense level. That was like,
especially
and
the
that
chase
boss,
at the end.
That boss fight was really cool, where you had to like hit the platforms and jump across them. I really liked that area.
Yeah. That was probably if I had to pick a favorite part of the game, that was probably it.
Me too.
Yeah.
I
was just gonna say that part was cool, but it was back to my point of the story making no sense. Like,
oh no, it was ridiculous. There was no reason.
It was just arbitrarily threw that in there to make you go back and do it again.
Well,
like
I don't think it was arbitrary. I think it was just the fact of like they had a very specific thinking pattern in this game, which was like, what's a cool aesthetic for a level? What's something cool we could put into it? And then their last thought was, how can we fit it into the story? Like, because their story was so loose, they could very easily, they could very easily be like, let's have a swamp level and an underworld level, and like. You know, they had all these things. Yeah, a dream world, you know, an underwater world, like they had all these things. Yeah, and then they're like, how can we fit these into the thing? Which, again, is done much better in Super Mario 64, where it's like, you have these paintings, and there's a whole, like, thing behind why the paintings are there, and why do they go to very different places, and it's like these imaginary worlds, or these It just is rooted a lot more in the world instead of like a.
Well, and Super Mario 64, the story is almost optional because you can get story by talking to people in the game, but you can ignore everyone and not hear the story at all and just platform.
Well,
if
you ignore everybody, the story is rescue the princess. Like the story is the same as every other Mario game, which is totally fine, and you can get a deeper story about why are the bombs here and why do they have this mountain with a cannon on top of it and whatever. You can figure that stuff out if you want to. You just don't have to.
Which is cool. Yeah.
And I think what Sean was saying about how they kind of designed everything and then figured out how it fit together last, that kind of, like, as I was playing through this game, in terms of, like, a lot of the levels, everything felt extremely inorganic. Like, the levels designs themselves were kind of cool, but they didn't make any sense. It's like, on the final boss, you drop into this giant pit of lava, and oh, by the way, there's one of your flying shells there so you can defeat the boss. You know what I mean? Like, they threw in these things there. It seemed like they were like, okay, we want to put this in a level. We want to put this, like, skating section in a level. They want to put, like, a walking, running shell horse thing in this level. But, like, why those were there never made any sense.
Regardless of the final level, I thought the levels were pretty organic, and I thought they flowed well.
No.
They flowed well. I didn't find a problem with them.
Yeah, I thought they were really good.
I really disagree. I thought the levels felt extremely disjointed, like what Sean just said. Like, they had all these cool ideas for levels, and they just kind of threw them in a specific spot.
So you even think the levels, each individual level was disjointed? Because I disagree a lot with that. Like, if you thought the levels as a whole were disjointed, that's somewhat reasonable. But each individual level, I thought flowed really well for me.
You mean like within its own universe, Skylar?
Yeah, within its own level, yeah.
I think both to an extent. Like, I felt like the levels themselves moving from one to another often didn't make sense, and especially the worlds didn't make sense. Like, I didn't understand all of a sudden, like, whenever I moved to a new world, where they have, like, the little cutscene with the teensies or whatever, like, I never expected that. I never saw it coming. It was just like, oh, by the way, you found a new world. And I was like, okay. But the levels, I thought, not that every level was like this. Don't get me wrong. I thought there were quite a few levels that really seemed to make sense, that were really cool. But there was just a lot of things, and a lot of them, that felt so inorganic and so arbitrary. Like, when you're in the like, stone and fire temple place, and there's, like, this one plant there that's dropping these little, bouncy...
That was awful.
Yeah, that part was awful.
I loved those plums. Those
No,
were like
those
my favorite
plums were
mechanics.
fine. No. It's not the mechanic itself. It's that it didn't feel like it made any sense in the level itself. Like, here I am in this giant fire stone temple. I haven't seen a plant in 30 minutes. And oh, by the way, here's this exotic tree that's dropping these plums for me to use. I understand the point that it served for the mechanic, and I understand that point, but why it was there never seemed to make any sense.
Well,
and the farther along we got through the game, the more this seemed to be apparent. Like,
these plants are resistant to lava, Jordan. So they would be okay to be, like, in this area. They would obviously grow in this area. If they were that resistant to lava, it would be where they thrived.
But not really. Like, it didn't... That was just kind of one of the examples, but there were plenty of these. Like, it didn't make any sense in the final boss where I dropped down into this pit.
I don't care about the final boss.
Well, I mean, but there was stuff like that.
The final boss levels are always, like, really...
Yeah. But you know what? That's like saying that, Bowser is a turtle and Mario fights him, and that doesn't make any sense, because why are there turtles fighting plumbers? Like, that's nitpicking. That's nitpicking.
No, it was not
You're
nitpicking.
dealing with a game where a guy has a floating torso and no arms and legs, and you want to argue over... Like, why is a plant indigenous to a hot area?
No, it was stuff like that. Again, you're nitpicking my point, and that's
nitpicking. You're nitpicking.
No, it was something like where you drop into, it was like the giant open farm area with, like, the giant mechanical chicken. You know what I mean? And it was like the giant mechanical chicken thing that was running around. And you're supposed to be in like
awesome.
But no, but it's supposed to be like a penitentiary for, like, evil kids or whatever that they were capturing. And it was like, okay, despite the fact there were like 5 kids in this giant open field. But then it was one of these things where it's like you roll down a pipe and then all of a sudden you land on a walking shell that's right there. And then you happen to go flying through this giant thing. And, like, the mechanics themselves were cool, but why one thing existed in the level seemed to make no sense.
Well, I think here's
Jordan, every single platformer does that.
Yeah. You need to set your platforming events somewhere.
Jordan's the type of person who watches Despicable Me and goes, they can't steal the moon because the tides would go all crazy and it would lead to billions and billions of deaths worldwide, and forgets he's watching a kid's movie.
Well, like, what I was trying to say to Jordan's response about how you go down a thing and there's, like, a platform waiting for you, like, every game does that. Every platformer game does that. Like, every platformer game has little coincidental platforms or moving objects or items that are always there waiting for you for a reason. Like especially in Rayman, you're saying, like, you slide down a tunnel and then there's a moving platform, like, waiting for you. Like, what else would there be?
Jordan.
Let me make my point here, and we can end it. And I'll just say, because
Let
clearly
Jordan have the last word, and then we'll be done.
Yeah, clearly you guys don't agree, and that's okay. I guess what I'm trying to say is obviously these things exist in a platformer. The levels have to design to be fluid. The problem was I noticed it. Like, a good platforming level, there were plenty of levels where I'm sure there was plenty of that, and I didn't notice. What bothered me is that there were quite a few levels in this game where I noticed that. And I think what makes a really good level designed is that you just don't. It doesn't feel like you notice that. I guess that is my problem.
I can agree with that. Okay. Like
Yeah.
that.
And we can move on to another point because I know there's other stuff we want to cover. I guess it felt that it was noticeable, and then that
Right,
detracted.
no, like that's
I guess-
legitimate.
I guess the thing for me is like when you're playing a type of game, you have to look at what comes first in the design process. And when you're making a platformer, what comes first is fun mechanics, bizarre looking worlds, and like
Fluidity.
and fluidity between different jumps and mechanics, and then everything else comes after that. Just like when you're making Call of Duty, the first thing you make is your like multiplayer and your shooter mechanics of like how many shots does it take to kill a guy, how do I set this up, and then level design and story and all that stuff comes after. It's like when you make a specific game, you put certain things in the design process first. And I can see Jordan's point about like you see that more in this than you do in Super Mario 64 or Sonic Adventure 2 or some of those things where it's more integrated into the world. Like I can see that, but it's also you kind of have to turn a blind eye to it and be like, this is just the way that this game is. And it also might be the fact that we're spoiled by modern games. Like I think there is this like notion in modern games to almost explain backstory too much, where it's like, you know, you have to know why this thing is here and why that thing is there, and it gets kind of annoying, or it ends up hidden in tons of codec text that nobody reads or whatever. You know,
It
I
just
think
didn't
this
feel
was a
organic,
different time.
and it wasn't a deal breaker. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like, oh my god, there's a flower where there shouldn't be. GG, I hate this game. It was noticeable. That's all.
Okay, so I'm going to jump on something Josh said really quick, which was the bonus level controls, like having to press the two buttons really fast. Evan, do you want to talk a little bit, because you said something about this in the pre-show, do you want to talk about the controls, because I think we all have some frustrations with the way the PC controls worked out on this game.
Yeah, totally. No, like I think probably the first thing I noticed is when I tried to figure out the controls at the very beginning of the game, I already was like, are you serious? Like, you use your arrow keys to move, you use A to jump and spacebar to, like, shoot your attacks, your balls. And you can use Q and W and control to, like, change the camera.
Kind of. Sometimes.
Kind of. Yeah, when the game felt like it. But I guess my main problem is when I was playing the game, like I had so much frustration about like controlling Rayman that I got so uninterested in playing. Like
It detracted from the experience.
Yeah, like I just trying to do the controls, and I noticed that if you press more than 2 arrow keys at the same time, you can't attack. I noticed that some early on in the game, like if you're doing up and like over or back and over, you know, like you cannot do attacks. And I remember just that, like, I guess the problem is that I would not want to play this on a PC. I just wouldn't want to play this game on a computer at all. Like, I think that this game is made for console. It's made for a controller. It's made for something that isn't so, you know, it's made for something that's more simple. And, like, I think that just kind of, it honestly ruined it for me a little bit. Just because, like, I wanted to be able to have this fluid control
You can't
of
do that
my
on the
guy, but, like, I can't because, like, it's I think too old. Plus the combination of the keys you have to use, it just makes it so like weird and sloppy, and like it was hard.
The first note that I wrote down was that it needed to be play on a controller.
Especially because for me, controls are paramount to a platformer. Like a platformer is nothing without good controls. And I totally shared that experience, Evan, where it was like I tried something. How many people pressed spacebar to jump and died a lot because that happened to me all the time.
And the stupid helicopter thing.
Yes,
like
because
in this one level, it was the precipice, the one where you have to like run and all the platforms are like falling and stuff, and you have to like race against like all the falling platforms. I remember so many times I'd be on a platform that would get shot by like a cannon shell, and I would jump, but to the game I already had jumped, and so I just start helicoptering
and then die.
My death. I could not understand why. Like,
Right.
it's just so frustrating.
I think I'm going to be the hipster in this situation, but I actually thought the controls were pretty precise and well done. for a
You're
platformer.
fucking kidding me.
Nope.
I thought all
there
the
is
controls
no
were
way.
fine except for the camera.
Yeah,
No,
I agree.
There
I
is
thought the
no
camera
way
could've
that
been better,
A
but
was a
the
good
fact-
button for jump. Period.
The fact that you could hit control, well, it was good. It was well situated with the rest of the buttons because you could hit control to center your camera on yourself and Q and E to
Sometimes.
twist. A
Maybe.
was logical. No, control worked almost all the time.
No, it didn't. No, it didn't.
And spacebar, it was good for one hand because you could put two fingers on Q and E, one on A, one on control, and one on spacebar at all times. So I thought it was fine, and I don't know. I thought they were precise enough and reactive enough that I was able to like do stuff really fast. Since, like I said, I was focused on doing stuff fast and ignoring lums, and I was able to do that pretty effectively and know where I was, especially with watching the shadow of Rayman as I jumped and stuff like
Yes.
that.
But that's
could-
not what I'm saying necessarily, Skylar. Like, I'm not saying that, like...
That
I'm
it
not
wasn't
saying
playable.
That, like, the control, that it was bad and that, like, when I wanted to attack, it didn't. Like, I'm just saying that, like, I just thought that it ruined kind of the flow of the game a little bit.
You
I
might not
guess
be
is
saying
how
that,
I see
Evan,
it.
but I will say that. The controls in this game were straight up terrible. They were the worst thing about this game. The fact that you had to use arrows for moving and then A and control, which your pinky had to be on, I guess, and Q for camera and space as attack. Like, I cannot tell you how many times I ended up messing up a jump simply because of control problems, not because I didn't. Again, back to the same discussion we've had multiple times. And this is a problem I have with platformers in general. They extend the life of the game by making stuff ridiculously hard to do in a way that is punishing and not fun. So, like, for example...
I disagree
with that.
completely.
I think I...
Okay, well, you
Yeah.
must...
Oh, you're so full of shit.
You play
Died,
platformers...
do you mean fell?
I
Josh,
mean
do you
actually
died.
died.
Or do you mean fell?
I mean,
The fact that-
died. Like, I fell a couple times, but I
Okay,
don't...
yeah, I only actually died like 3 times. Yeah.
The fact that when you actually die, you go all the way back to the beginning of the level, not a checkpoint,
Wait, no, you
made me
don't.
want to
No, you
rip
don't.
my
You
You go
hair
back
out.
to the last load point. You go
Go
back,
back
to
to
the
the
last
last load point.
Okay,
Yeah.
whatever. You go back to the last point
there's a
where
big
the
difference.
level... No, it is not a huge difference, because you get to the end of a section... Keep in mind, this is coming from the framework of I don't like platformers, I don't play them a lot, and I'm not used to them. So the fact that I'm already playing it on weird controls changed my experience with it a lot. But I cannot tell you how many times I missed a jump just that one last time and had to go all the way back and shut the game off. I was like, fuck it. I'm not
Sounds like
playing
you were
this.
really predisposed
like-
against it.
Yeah, I agree because I thought the controls were fine, even in the like intense skiing sections and stuff. I thought they were good, and I thought those sections, although
The
they
water
were
skiing
rather
made me want to
difficult,
kill a chinchilla, Skylar.
I thought they
That
were
water
really
skiing section was
satisfying.
terrible.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. I don't think mentioning killing chinchillas. I don't think the outcry that's happening inside me is appropriate for this podcast. But no, I liked them, and I thought those sections were, as far as a lot of platformers I played, those sections were really well designed, and
I
I,
liked
thought
the
they were
minigames,
different
too.
enough. The sections of like you ride on the bullet, you water ski, you ride the plum. I thought they had different enough mechanics that they were all like interesting and had good variety too.
They made me want to
And
die.
while I hated the water skiing, I thought that the bullet riding and everything was actually pretty fun.
Yeah, the bullet ride was fun. I thought the plum was like the most fun thing ever. You
I
guys,
fucking hated
Nah,
that.
I
shit.
thought
really-
the top of the world's one, the one we had to ride the chair they had to spin around on to dodge
Yeah.
things. I thought that was probably my favorite.
I
thought it
hated
was
the plum.
inventive. It was
Plum was
whimsical. You came into this saying, I hate platformers, and I'm going to look for reasons not to have fun.
They're like, let's make this section ridiculously hard, and then extend the life of the game by the fact that you have to go through the water skiing section 25 times. And it's really a 2-minute section, but it ends up being a 30-minute section because you have to redo it so many times. And
I agree that the water skiing section was frustrating, but I thought that was like the only frustrating section like that.
I
no,
hated
there were
that.
multiple sections like that. Like I'm having trouble thinking of other ones that stood out as much as the water skiing. And don't get me wrong, the regular platforming stuff I was fine with, like where you're climbing up walls and you got to dodge stuff, or where you're like jumping in the river from this platform to that platform. They were fine. It was more the timing puzzles that I felt like were really brutal in this game. Like the part where you're jumping between platforms and there are barrels getting dropped, and so you have to either jump over and on top of the barrels or like jump at the right times. I felt like those were offset just enough that there wasn't really a right time to jump, or like the laser things that you had to jump through. 9 times out of 10, I would just get hit by the first one and then just run through the rest of the lasers.
Really?
Because
Yeah, I didn't have problems with any of those sections.
Well,
I couldn't do the timing puzzles. I really didn't like
But
them.
I'm really used to arrow-based platformers because I've played stuff
Yeah.
like Super Meat Boy and stuff like that where you only use the arrow keys. So I've gotten used to like controlling myself with the arrow keys as opposed to a controller. So that might have been one of your major problems.
And I understand. Don't send me emails saying that I hated this game and I'm ruining it. Like, I understand I'm in the minority. Like, a lot of people like this game. So it's more my personal problem with platformers and artificial game extending in general. It's like the fact, Skylar, that you have to go back through multiple levels multiple times to collect all the lums. Like, that kind of stuff
obnoxious as
is
shit, and I hate platformers.
because and it's
I just
obnoxious.
think it's funny that you hate artificial game extension, but you like Pokemon because like the whole
Yeah,
catch 'em all thing
driving-
is the single greatest example of artificial game extension I can think of.
Beat gym leaders?
I think that it is to be said that there are places where I like that. It works for me in RPGs. It works for me in other places. Like, I understand all games to some extent have these artificial game extenders where they take what should be a 30-minute section and they turn it into a 2-hour section. Like, I understand that exists in lots of different games. I'm just saying in platformers it's the most egregious to me. Kind of like what Jordan was talking about, where it's like it stands out the most in platformers because I'm already not enjoying the experience. And so anything that makes me enjoy that experience less is annoying to me, as opposed to Pokemon, where I like training my Pokemon already, so it doesn't really bother me that I have to fight more battles or that I have to find some trainers I didn't find before. Like, that's kind of different.
Let me chime in here as maybe perhaps the middle ground person, because I think this is an interesting conversation between Sean, Mr. I hate platformers, and Skylar, Mr. I go to sleep with platformers. You know what I mean? And so I think...
Well, and
They're
your
good
mom.
and bad.
And
Let
your
me
mom.
tell you that they're good and bad. Platformers.
Platformers and Jordan's and Evan's mom.
God,
I like how you at least gave them the benefit of both having the same mom.
oh, thanks. That's well appreciated.
I wanted to make it twice the insult.
I
Thanks.
guess.
Thanks.
I think
The,
I don't think they, like,
the
stack
insult's so nice he said it twice.
it. Oh god.
But I think what Evan was saying about the controls was true. I mean, once I I started, I was like, really? They're going to use arrows? That's annoying. And once I got over that, it wasn't a big deal, aside from the fact that the camera was really... The more I played the game, the more I hated the camera.
I mean, that's in every platformer
Yeah.
from that time, though. That's just like it's
And that's-
hard to make a good camera system in a platformer.
Right. And that was fun. I mean,
cameras today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when I started the game, that was the first thing, when it all kind of nostalgia came back to me, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. The camera can sometimes be your worst enemy, it can sometimes be your friend. But the longer I played, the more it got noticeable. And I think there is a point to what Sean is saying. And I think I was kind of reading reviews for Rayman before I bought it, or after I bought it before I played it, and everybody's like, oh, it's so great. It's never frustrating at all, and that was very counter to my experience. The fucking plum levels, that was easily the plum levels in the lava pit, and the final boss were easily the most frustrating things I've done in video games.
I loved the plums. I don't know what the problem is. I thought they were
like the
so
plums,
fun. I
too.
thought they were so clever, and they were actually difficult in a way that was responsive, which was cool. I thought the controls worked, but it was still difficult, which I thought was fun.
But here's the thing, and I think what Sean is kind of getting at, and what bothered me, is that a lot of these things, the game should be, it couldn't quite decide if it wanted to be something like a Crash Bandicoot kind of thing, where you're always supposed to be moving. You're always supposed to be moving, you're always supposed to be, prepping yourself for things and being ready to do stuff on the fly, or if it should be something that we should kind of prepare. You look, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? They try to do both, and a lot of times with the mini games and stuff, it would introduce mechanics to you that you would only use once. So by the time I got good at it, the water skiing was a great example. I mean, they did the sliding thing that showed up a few times. Riding the horse
showed
thing,
up a bunch of times. The
that
horse
showed up a few times, but a lot of times the wall jumping and stuff like that, it showed up once, and by the time I finally felt like I got good at it, I never saw it again. And so I would spend all this time kind of frustratingly clogging through it for no reason at all because it didn't show up. You did all these kind of things, and so it felt useless. Like I got all that time, I finally got decent at the plum thing, and then it shows up one more time as like an optional way to get some lums, and then never again. Knowing that I was spending all this time, all this grind, trying to get good at something, only for it to never show up again, kind of ruined the experience to an extent.
Yeah, sure.
Fair enough. I mean, we just have fundamentally different like views of what we enjoy in platforming is the only thing.
Did we want to do some of like the mini game mechanic stuff, or move on straight to like the voice and music, Sean?
We kind of talked about the minigame stuff already, so
Yeah,
I don't-
why don't we move on to voice?
I don't feel compelled to talk about that necessarily.
Yeah.
Let's do some really quick voice and music stuff here. Okay. So the last thing I wanted to talk about before we kind of get to our like wrap up and quick attack stuff, I wanted to talk about the voice and the music, because one of the things that I did really love in this game and found myself thinking about even when I wasn't playing was the music. Like I was really, really into the music, and like I was humming it, and it got stuck in my head, and I really liked it. So I didn't capture all the different music, but I captured my two favorites. So the first, this one isn't really my favorite, but this is just the first kind of menu screen music. So we got this.
Yeah.
Which I liked. Like I really liked that
It's
sort
good
of like,
ambience.
yeah, it was just good ambient music, like lead up to what you're going to be doing. Like it kind of set the stage, and it was good. I really liked that part of it. And then the other music that I captured was the swamp music, because this was the one that got stuck in my head. So. Is that loud enough? Can you guys hear that?
Yeah. What it is giving me Cave of Bad Dreams flashbacks.
Okay,
I
so
love the animal sounds like rhythmically placed in there. It's so awesome.
yeah, those worked out really well, and the sound design in general, the sound that the cages made, the sound that the animals made, that was probably my favorite part of the game, because it just really fit in well. And obviously, as a person who produces a podcast and also does a lot of sound stuff, like I'm predisposed to like that kind of stuff. But it also means that I'm extra critical of it when it's not good. So I really liked that. The only sound thing that I didn't like was this.
That was terrifying. That guy was literally terrifying.
Okay, wait. So there's one more part of this you guys need to hear. So after the whispering, just listen.
Oh, yo, Zabba.
Oh, yo, zabba doop bop zip bop doop bop boop bop boop.
No, I love Rayman's talking. He speaks
Yes.
Raymanese.
No,
And he's-
if you're gonna record
why don't
sound,
they record
why not
that?
just record fucking voices? Like,
Thank you. That's exactly my.
Rayman talks throughout the entire game, but it's all a made-up language. And at first, I was like, "Is this French?" Because Ubisoft, French Canadian company, and all that. I was like, "Okay, it's not
Josh,
English." But then after a while, I was like,
Josh, don't tell me that you confused yo boop zoop zabba dabba with French, please.
No. Time Rayman talks, it sounds discernible because Glovebox is like, "You need to go find Lee," right? And he's like, right? He doesn't say like,
Yeah.
Rabba Dabba Doobly. He's like Lee the Fae, and that sounds like an actual language. Fae for fairy, sure.
I thought for a while that it might have been like an actual language, some kind of really obscure kind of thing, but then I did realize it, because it did seem to follow some kind of actual progression, and there seemed to be things that were at least moderately discernible if I had no idea what the language was. But yeah, it did become pretty clear after about an hour that it was just gibber gabble.
Yeah.
Dabba zooba dabba.
It's like whoever the voice for this game was like, let's take our impression of an Australian talking Simlish for Rayman. Great.
Yeah.
Throws a Bill Cosby in there.
There's definitely some Bill Cosby in there.
So,
So Bill Cosby, an Australian Bill Cosby impersonator who's in French Canada.
That's
Yeah.
right. Rayman!
exactly. That's
But
exactly
we
what they
also
did.
Let's talk about the single most important part of the game, and this is something that can't be left behind. Let's talk about the teensy dance used to open the door.
It's amazing. I want
That
to be able
it
to
is
do that.
the single most important part of the entire game is the little Russian dance you do at the end of every.
This is true.
Hey! And because during the whole time, Rayman goes, hit, ha, hit, ha, hit, ha. Yeah. I was like, It's just too good. It's too important.
It was
I
amazing.
did.
That's
I did like that a lot. Okay.
Let's
Oh,
do some wrap-ups.
So, on to our next section of the show.
Captain's log, stardate 4523.3.
Captain, incoming message.
Okay,
So
so
best bumper ever.
It was a little longer than I remembered it being.
I feel it's the same.
yeah, it's the same one.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's the same one. The first week I just played the Mario sound though, so maybe that's what you're remembering. Let's do 5-star reviews on iTunes first. So, Evan, you want to hit us with what people said on our iTunes reviews?
Yes, of course. Dead Pirate John gave a 5-star review saying, "Great reviews, great content, and great guys dishing it out for us poor kids with mostly empty wallets. More 5, please." And
That was
also,
cute.
Redbeard80 said, "I am in my early 30s, so that puts me around 10 years older than this group. The 3 episodes that are out have been great picks. I played them all when they were released, and I find the group's views and commentary insightful and funny. Thank you for putting together a PC gaming podcast that is entertaining and fun."
Cool. Thanks.
Thank
for those
you.
guys.
We
like
really
that.
appreciate
Yeah, thanks a lot.
the feedback.
Thank you for 5-star reviews. Those always help us out a ton. It helps the show out a lot, so we really appreciate those. All right, so Josh, you reading the emails,
Sure, I would love to read an email.
or do you and Skylar want to switch off with
you know, you
emails?
read the first one. I'll read Tim's.
Just have to ask, have any of you played GTA San Andreas? If not, that's my suggestion, if that's cheap. And if you have and think Vice City is better, simply put, you are effing crazy. And by the way, seriously, it's 4 syllables. Seriously, McCrae.
I know. I've
Craig.
heard more about that than any
We-
of our reviews. Actually.
we got multiple emails telling us that seriously is 4 words
Yeah,
or 4 syllables.
I know. It was clearly not a well-written haiku. It was, off the top of my head. Whatever.
Josh
I'm
did not major in haiku studies.
I'm not a poet.
He did.
Cool.
So anyway, next email, Josh.
It's great to see a podcast that's so down to earth, and I'm looking forward to see you guys improve and keep pumping out podcasts. If you're looking for more game ideas, throw in some indie games. Games like Limbo, Magica, and the original Torchlight might be fun to look at. Cheers, Tim J. Tim, you are a captain of industry and a handsome person, and we love you.
And we're going to take your
that's-
suggestion for...
And we are going to take your suggestion because that's what we do. We
Too bad none of your games are under $5, but we will choose a different indie game.
I think
Oh, but
I
it's
think if Limbo ever goes under $5, we should play that one though. That's
Absolutely,
interesting.
Limbo's amazing.
It's an interesting
Limbo
game.
is a fantastic game.
Isn't
All right,
isn't
so-
isn't Magica under $5? I'm pretty sure it is.
No, it's
It's on
it's
when
10.
it's on sale. It's on sale.
all right, Josh, you want to alternate paragraphs on this email?
Skylar, I'll alternate paragraphs with you.
Okay, Jordan and I alternate paragraphs.
You want to start?
Hi guys, saw you on New and Noteworthy, so I gave it a shot, and I really liked the show. I like the mix of content and commentary. You guys all vibe together well. The idea of playing games and then being part of a community that discusses them is a pretty righteous idea. I'm an older gamer, so I'm totally interested in some spirited banter about nostalgic throwback games. You asked for a couple opinions, so here's my 2 cents.
I hope you would stay as close to the $5 mark as possible. I wouldn't want myself or anyone else left out of the chance to participate because of money. Some people have $20 to throw around and some don't.
I agree with some of the iTunes commenters. Yes, the show's rough, but there is already improvement from the first to the second show. There's less mic pops and background noise. The soundboard is a fun addition. Looking forward to playing the games you review. Hope you guys keep this podcast going. I rarely laugh out loud from a podcast. Atmosphere versus normal fear. I died laughing.
Putting that on a shirt, I swear to God.
It was awkward. Anyways, thanks for the podcast, Brad T.
Thanks, Brad.
Loosely related to Mr. T.
I
And
don't think they were related at all. I'm not gonna lie.
we also got an email from Sean B, who told us he bought the THQ Humble Bundle and already had Saints Row 3, so he gave us a code to give away on the show. So if you want Saints Rim, I'm so used to calling it that because I make fun of it with my brother.
If you want Saints Row the Third,
It's a
Which
it's
is
a
an
great
amazing
game though.
game.
It's a really good game. So
It's
if you
so
haven't
much
played
fun.
Saints Row the Third yet, and you want to, if you send us an email that has Saints Row the Third or Saints Row 3 in the subject line, you'll be entered to the drawing that way. And then if you also like us on Facebook, you'll be entered to the drawing that way. Does that work?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, let's do
yeah.
that.
Cool.
So, next part of the show, we are going to launch into
Pikachu use quick attack.
Quick attacks. Okay, so this is the part of the show. I know, I love that piano.
Microsoft Sam used robotic voice.
So the next part of the show is our quick attack, where we talk for just a minute about a game that we've been playing recently. So my quick attack, I downloaded on Steam Sonic Adventure 2 in the same platforming spirit.
Yes.
And I've been playing through that again, and I forgot how ridiculously addictive the Chow mechanic is, because again, I am attracted to RPG and like animal care mechanics, like Pokemon and that sort of thing. So for me, the first third of that game is really fun. The second 2/3 are kind of fun and really just a vehicle to unlock more Chow stuff.
All I have to say, Sean, is flying around at the speed of sound.
Gotta follow
my rainbow! Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Anything. Forget games. It's the greatest movie.
It's such a good song.
Pop hit. It's just everybody should be forced to
my
listen
God.
to that. As
It's
a
called
child.
City Escape, by the way, for anyone
Yes.
who wants to listen to it. Just look up Sonic 2 City
If you
Escape.
haven't heard it, you're not a good person.
Yep.
It's awesome. And also, when I was a kid, and it still surprised me now, the end of that game is still impactful to me. Like, I'm not gonna... I know, I feel weird not spoiling a game that's like 12 years old, but if you haven't played through that game, I won't say exactly what happens, but like the last 3 levels and then the story kind of surrounding that. I know people kind of bash on Sonic because the story's kind of goofy and Sonic's is radical a lot and like whatever, but it's definitely very rooted in the late 90s, early 2000s place. But what happens at the end of that game and the way that it happens is still impactful to me, and I found that really surprising to me, 10 years after I played it the first time or whatever.
Slowest quick attack.
Yeah, anyway,
any
okay.
Pokemon has
Okay.
ever performed.
Evan,
Okay.
quick your attack.
Okay, so my quick attack definitely would be Saints Row the third. I actually got it through the Humble Bundle as well, along with like 7 other games that I haven't even touched yet.
I will never
and
play
I got
Medal
like
of Honor.
15 hours in like 3 days, and I've been playing co-op with a buddy of mine from the beginning, and like we just have way too much fun. It is so silly and so just ridiculous, but it is a blast.
That game absolutely nails co-op. Like, that is the way to do
Yes.
co-op in a game like that, and it is baffling to me that they figured it out before Grand Theft Auto did. I don't know how
Absolutely.
Like, that's baffling
Especially
to
because
me.
Saints Row 2 was kind of the same vibe, but it wasn't popular at all. And then this
No.
game just like exploded because they figured everything out. Yeah.
Well, this game exploded because they fully embraced the craziness. Like, Saints Row, the first one was terrible. Saints Row 2 was like, we're kind of silly, but we're still trying to be GTA. And then Saints Row the third, they're like, we're not GTA, we're never going to be GTA, and that's a good thing, and we're going to just embrace it. Skylar, hit us with your quick attack.
So my quick attack is a wonderful little game known as Super Monkey Ball 2.
Oh, wow,
I
that's
picked it
old
up
school.
lately for the GameCube because I decided I wanted to start speedrunning it. So, yeah, it's really fun. Super Monkey Ball is an amazing series, especially 1 and 2 on the GameCube are wonderful. So, yeah.
That was another game I never really got into, but a lot of my friends were really into it.
So fun. And I have a suggestion for another giveaway. Each time Jordan mentions his girlfriend's name, or the fact that he has a girlfriend, we should give away an additional number of her phone number.
Whoa now.
Okay, Josh,
Seeing as
you
you
haven't
all
gone
know
yet,
my
right?
girlfriend, you should be way more terrified of her than you are of me.
Josh, quick attack.
I'm gonna go with a weird game this week.
Wow,
I'm gonna
surprise,
go
surprise.
with Rossettier and Item Shop's
Oh,
Tale.
God. That game's awful.
The game's super fun.
No.
It's capitalism, the video game. You play a little girl who basically has to work off a debt to a fairy by owning an item shop and selling items to heroes who are going dungeon crawling. And it's warped. And you can gouge people on prices. And it's very Japanese. That's pretty much like all
Is
to
it-
be said about it. But it's
is it-
fun.
Is it
It's
like
on
a
Steam,
Sally
it's cheap.
Spa type game where like a time
No,
management?
no. It's like it's literally like some guy's like, I'm gonna go. You find out like a new monster's coming into town, and people need arrows to kill it, so you jack up the price on arrows. Like it's seriously like capitalism.
wow.
The game. Like forget the. It's an economic simulator with a very Japanese sheen to it.
There's
It's
also
really
like
fun,
an
though.
adventure aspect too, where you go through dungeons.
Yeah, but I never play that. I just sell
That's good.
items.
That's good. That's the reason the game's bad, because in that section, if you kill the same type of enemy in a row, you get more money than just killing enemies. So you have to go around the dungeon like 20 times to get more money.
That's
But
really
in
weird.
all seriousness, it's super fun if you like weird macroeconomics.
That kind of reminds me of the times when I was a kid and I was playing Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, and I would set up a good scoring roller coaster that would get a really long line, and then I would like pause the game and jack the price up to like $99 once, like right as people were coming in, and then I would make a ton of money because they were already committed to coming
Sean,
into the roller
you would
coaster.
love Set Air. You would really like it.
Yep.
Oh, Jesus
All right,
Christ.
Jordan.
I really like figuring out game-breaking mechanics. That's a fun side game of mine. Okay, Jordan, go.
It is.
All right, I'm gonna make this an actual quick attack. Something.
I like how
Something I've been
every
playing
single
recently-
show you get high and mighty about how your quick attack is better than everybody else's.
Well,
It's true.
I fucking trained my Pikachu when it was still a Pikachu, so its quick attack is actually quick. So I've been playing Empire Earth, the original one, because when I was on Good Old Games and buying Rayman, I saw that was on there for $5, and that was like a total classic. When I played on my really shitty computer, that like you had to put the unit cap at like 200 because then nobody could actually do anything with it. It's a blast. The AI is totally broken, but it has been just about as fun as
That's
I
a
remember.
fun game. We should do that game at some point, I think.
It is.
Or
It is a really good
similar
one
game.
to do. It's kind of a very classic, old school strategy game, and the best part, dropping nukes on archers and attacking with robots all in the same game is like the best thing that anybody's ever thought of.
Yeah,
So-
that's pretty awesome. I never played that, but I watched friends play it. That'd be a fun one to go back to.
Agreed. All
Okay,
right, cool. So,
So-
speaking of games that we're going to go back to.
Do you want to do 2-sentence wrap up first?
Oh, sorry.
2-sentence wrap up about Rayman. Josh, hit us first.
It's fun. I like it. It's a good platformer, and it's just silly. It's goofy. You'll enjoy it.
Okay, Evan.
I'm 90% sure that was like 3 or 4 sentences.
Oh my
Those
God.
2 sentences
Small.
with pauses.
There were lots of colons and dashes.
Evan.
So my 2 sentence wrap up is I enjoyed the game to a point, but I felt like I spent a lot of time being frustrated over actually enjoying it. Not that I didn't enjoy it, but that like the fact that I was frustrated so often, it kind of took away the experience of the game. But I still enjoyed it for what it was.
Upvote. I agree. Jordan.
I would say Rayman was a temperamental but fun mistress. There were a lot of things that really drove me crazy that we've talked
Should
about.
we tell your girlfriend you're cheating on her? By the way, I just want to point that out.
Anyway, so there were a lot of things I did like. I thought some of the levels were pretty cool. I thought some of the vehicle sections, if you can call them that, were fun. There are also things a lot that I really didn't like the auto targeting and the camera were really temperamental, and the controls wasn't a big fan of. So at the end of the day, I just was kind of bored. Like I played through it, I did not enjoy it, but I didn't really particularly enjoy it either.
Skylar.
Long wrap up.
You interjected like 4 sentences in the middle of mine. Don't give me that.
Okay. So I thought it was really fun. I really like platformers. I thought a lot of the mechanics were very creative. Thumbs up from me. Can't wait till we do another platformer where you get to hear Sean complain more.
God.
I want to
Okay.
say for there that my wrap up was still the shortest.
It was. Last time I won the short
not-
award, you win it this time.
Not until I do my 2-sentence wrap up, which is Rayman 2. No.
Well played.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. So our next game that we'll be playing is Dungeons of Dreadmore. So go download that on Steam right now. It's exactly $5, right?
Indie game from 2011.
Yeah,
it's an
$5.
indie game,
Indie
so
indie game from 2011.
advice.
RPG type stuff. It should be pretty fun. So this is a game that I haven't played before, so I'm excited to try this one out.
I haven't even heard
Hey,
of this.
look at that. Case in point. Tim J in his email said we should play more indie games, and now we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm the
Yay.
only one who's played this actually. So
Yeah,
It's
well,
a
I
good
think
game.
that's going to be the case with most of our indie games that we play.
yeah, that's true. I play way
which-
too many indie games.
Which is good. No, that's good. One of my favorite things about the show is that we all have really different gaming backgrounds that we bring to it. I think that makes it a lot more fun.
Awesome.
So, I don't have anything else to say. If you want Saints Row 3, send us an email or like us on our Facebook page, which are both 5 on the 5 Podcast. Our email is 5on5podcast@gmail.com, so send us an email there. If you want to be read on the show, also 5-star review on iTunes. And Josh, you want to do a quick plug for Chest High Walls?
I do. So we actually did start our sister show. We said it was going to be called Critical Hits, but we lied because there's already a podcast with that name. So, yes, the first episode is actually out now on iTunes. It's called Chest High Walls. It's gaming discussion you can take cover behind.
I love that.
Right? So, yeah, go check out Chest High Walls. It's all the same people, except kind of a different format. You'll like it. Give us a look.
Other than that, download Dungeons of Dreadmore, play it. We will see you next week when we record our next show. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
See ya. Bye. Later. Here comes the theme song that Jordan and Skylar made. Bye. See ya. We know why we shit all over Jordan, but I think if all we do on the show is shit all over Jordan, that comes off as a weird dynamic. Don't worry, I'm going to edit that stuff out. Our next game that we'll be playing is Cave Story.
No.
No. I lied.
Oh my God.
I'm going to edit that out.